What's okay?
Go ahead. When you were hanging out with the Crips and so forth, I know not only we were calling you that white girl, but what were white people calling you?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Remember I told you I had a double life.
Right.
So I had a lot of crews. And I was not just kicking it with the Crips. I was on the basketball team. I was on the tennis team.
Wow.
I was on the volleyball team. I had heavy metal friends.
So nobody, but see, nobody can mess with her because she had backup.
Well, and you're right, Sean, because here's the thing. No matter where I went, you really couldn't mess with me because I was down with most people. And part of it was just, I love people. I love people. I love, I'm not a cliquey type of person. Like I love to find the beauty in each person, and so I was a chameleon.
I was just going to say that word, chameleon.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I spy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see that, and what I admire most about when you get on, because I know you go around and you talk about white privilege, and this is something that you don't often see. Actually, I can't recall a time when I've seen a white person get up and say, we have privilege as white people. I've never heard that before. And you know, here it's wonderful in this forum. You kind of almost like preaching to the choir because none of us would disagree with that. But do you ever go to forums outside of an audience with African Americans? Do you ever speak to a white audience and talk about white privilege that white Americans?
I do. I think, well, here's the good news is that there's actually a lot of white people who are now speaking out against racism and white privilege. The problem is that they don't have the mic. We don't have the mic because it's not, you know, the powers that be don't want to have or show white people who are against white supremacy and white privilege because that challenges the structures and the power structures that be, right? So I do want to say that there is a growing movement, and we stand on the shoulders of white people who have been fighting since day one.
Like the abolitionists.
Exactly, against racism. So I'm in some good company. And I think what happened when I learned about white privilege, I was actually taught that I should be talking to white people.
Yes,
exactly.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, exactly.
Because I mean, we know,
it's like sense of clarity and perspective that, well, for me is refreshing. For them, I don't know, did they embrace it as foreign?
Well, I think, you know, it's
shut your mouth, be quiet.
Well, it's a little bit of everything, and I think I'm mostly talking to college kids. So I talk to different people in college campuses, and I have to say that there's some white people who hate me, and there's some white people who believe that I hate white people. And as a white woman, I'm here to say I love white people. I love all people. And just because I speak out against white privilege and white supremacy does not mean I hate myself or white people. And there's got to be room for that.
Do you ever find that black people, especially black women, do you think they're somewhat suspicious of you?
Yes, I do, and I think most people of color are suspicious of me, and they have every right to be, because white people have historically lied from the beginning of time. Lied, stolen, exploited, and taken things that were not theirs. So that's part of, unfortunately, that's part of my ancestry. And that's what I need to try and change.
When you talk to them about that, how do you suggest you right that wrong? That's like somebody giving you too much money at the bank, and you say, I'm not giving that back. I know it's not mine, but I'm not giving it back. How do you
I mean, what I've created is this AHA methodology, acknowledge, heal, act. And it's just kind of what my own process has been, and the first thing I ask white people to do is acknowledge that they have unearned benefits and privilege. Some white people are not there yet. Like they will be like, I don't have privilege, I'm working hard, I'm trying to pay my bills. What are you talking about? And so the first part is education and awareness. Like and like what, you know, and showing white people what it means to have white skin privilege, and then having them acknowledge that. And then the second part is around healing, because all people have been impacted negatively by racism, and that includes people of color and white people.
What was the revelation for you to go out into your community from your bio and what I've read, to educate your people on their white privilege? I was asked to do that by women activists of color who were my friends and comrades. Because I was working in communities of color for a very long time, and I had some committed sisters who stepped to me and said, we do not believe this is where you should be organizing. As an activist, where we need you is not in black and brown communities, we need you in white communities. We need you to talk to your people in your backyard.
So what do you say to a white person that says, all those people, all they do is complain, and they don't have because they don't want, because they don't work hard enough for it. What do you say to that?
Well, I enter the conversation humbly and gently because I want to engage and dialogue. Because if I come out with them with facts and stats and prove them wrong, I'm not going to win them over, and they're going to shut down. So I engage in dialogue around really looking and examining white supremacy and institutionalized racism and how that shows up every single day.
Give us an example.
Okay, well, so if you look at police brutality or the criminal justice system, 85% of the people who are locked up are black and brown. And most, like in drug cases, there's unfair sentencing where people of color get sentenced longer than white people. Okay, so if you look down the line, you have the cops who will pull people over and stop people more when they're people of color because of suspicious attitudes, because of racism. Then you get to the courtroom and the evidence is stacked against you. You have a jury of your peers that are not really your peers and a judge who has his or her own perspective. So the sentencing can come down harder. And then you're locked up for 15 years. And then any kids that you have now are being raised without a father or a mother. And then they're going to a school in the community that doesn't have enough resources to have good teachers and good books and good resources. So the young person's at a disadvantage now. And then the young person goes into a store and is followed through a store because they're a person of color. And then they're feeling like, how do I even make it? And then the media is splashing images of what's beautiful, which is white. And
have you ever been called the W word? The N-word?
I have. Yeah, I have. But I don't.
By who? By us or?
By a lot of different people. People of color and white people. But I don't.
Do you find a lot of black people are suspicious?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because what I said, like the history, right? Like,
it doesn't stop you.
It can't stop me because it's my mission. I'm here on a mission.
You know what gets me is the question. Not so much gets me. Why would somebody of privilege go out their way?
Yeah, I was thinking, what's the benefit in it?
I totally hear that. To me, it's peace of mind. We have a psychological soul wound as white people because we have done nothing but wrong since we've existed.
Have you felt, has there been an example of a
then I want you to expound on that. Go ahead.
Has there been an example of a white person, white people that you feel that you have won over, that when you first approach them to get to that aha, have you had success with that?
I have had success, and a lot of it has been actually within the hip-hop community. I did a piece a while back called A Code of Ethics for White Kids in Hip-Hop, and I asked white kids in hip-hop.
Where was this and how old were the kids?
High school, college. And I asked white people who loved hip-hop culture to be responsible about being white in a culture that was started by black and brown people. And I put out this code of ethics. And I got a lot of negative responses from it, a lot of hate email and hate mail.
Wow.
People calling me out my name from the white community.
What about the white kids today that are using the N-word? Do you ever talk to them about that and why?
I do, and I think, unequivocally it's not okay. And it's because of the history behind the N-word. People died behind that word.
So a lot of rappers, they still use it and they justify it, but
it's true. And I think that
black rappers, of course.
Right. Yeah, I mean the N-word is going to be one of those controversial things that it's like there's always going to be two sides. I speak for myself, and I ask white people to not use the word because of the history of the word. And until we have racial justice, you should never be using a word that's been used by the oppressor.
I'm just amazed. I'm hearing what you're saying, and just to hear it. I mean, we can easily sit here and say these, but to hear it coming out of your mouth, I think it's very courageous. And I think and I'm stepping outside of myself and saying, as another white person listening to what you're saying, if you were saying that to me, how would I respond? Probably, if I wasn't ready to accept, go, what's wrong with you?
You can't talk to JLOVE.
And that's your mouth. And the funny thing is, I think it's all divine because, in hip-hop culture, you're usually given a name. So I was given the name JLOVE. And I think it's divine that love is in there because I love love, and I love people, and I love justice.
Okay, one more question I wanted to ask. It seems like you really embrace, I'll say, black culture right now. Do you consider yourself at one point that you're a black woman trapped in a white person's body? And second part to that, if you don't, once upon a time, did you? I
never thought of it in those terms. I think that I did feel like a prisoner trapped in white skin. Because I felt like, you know, when I was down with hip hop when it wasn't popular, and I would go to hip hop jams and everything, what was hard for me was, what was hard was what black and brown people have to face every single day, which is I'd walk into a jam and people judge me by my color.
Right.
And within hip hop culture in the 80s, it was not appreciated that I was up in the cypher. Okay, so what was hard for me is that I had to prove myself, prove that I was down, prove that I had authentic feelings, that I was not about trying to exploit the culture but be part of it, and I had to fight through the white skin to get people to accept me.
Well, you know, yeah, I hear you. I don't see the black trapped in white. I just see a white woman.
Well, I was asking her just, you know, once upon a time.
Right. No, but I say that to say I really like the fact that I just see you as someone, and yeah, I could have seen that once upon a time, but I see you now, who you are now, as someone who just acknowledges, you know, her privileges as white, who's comfortable in her skin, but comfortable enough to say, which is great because you're not trying to be something that you're not.
But you wouldn't have liked me when I was in college.
I would have, because you would have been with the braids.
I had the braids. I was the white girl you love to hate. It's true. I mean, because I was ignorant. But I want to ask you. I embraced black culture to the fact that, like, I was Afrocentric in my own way. You can call me crazy, but I was. So I was somebody that I would have gotten on your nerves. Because
were you more Afrocentric than some of the other Afrocentric people?
I was, because I had to prove myself.
I understand.
So I just want to say that as a white woman, you know, it took me a long time to understand about white privilege. Why? Because we're not taught about it. This is why I have to educate white people. We are not taught about racism as white people.